What's up, running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans? Welcome to Talking in Ovals, your favorite spot. Dave, we got to figure something out. I need a catchphrase there.
That is weak, man.
It was bad. I really didn't think of anything. I tried to do it on the fly. It didn't go well. Did not go well. But anyway, you're in the right place if you like track and field. Here we are back for another great episode. Before we get into all the fun stuff, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars wherever you can. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us. Interact with us on the socials. Go look for Talking in Ovals. You'll see our logo. We are there. Today's Monday, January 30th, 2023 that we are recording. We have another great guest for you on, but I'm going to tease you guys there because before we get going, got to tell everyone, please go back, listen to last week's show. I know this show was important to Dave last week. We had on his parents. We heard about the RV. The RV needs to show up in Manchester. I'm telling them it needs to. I don't want it in Tom's River anymore. But if you want to know what I'm talking about, please go back and give that a listen. And we have some more PRs. Thanks to Coach Geiger over at Lacey. I'm going to run through these really quick. Over at the short conference meet, Andrew Tatcher ran a 4:36.87, his first time under 4:40, and Anna Roth, that was for the mile. And Anna Roth ran a 7:98 55 meter. Her previous best was 8.32. So huge improvements there. And then over at Egg Harbor, 600 meter, Avery Johnson ran a 1:47.45. He got first there. He was a 6-second PR. Kira Wimbush, she got it. Sorry. Kira Wimbush ran a 1:48.56 second, another 6-second PR in the 1,000. Vasi Conti, 3:24, took second there, an 18-second PR. Clinched a tie, clinched a tie in season best. Third was 11 seconds faster than the previous best. In the 300, Olivia Miller, 45.22. She was number one as a freshman. Katrina Conti, 44.85 second. And MVP, Ashley Lomerin, MVP. What is that? Pole vault? I don't even know what I'm saying there. Anyway, she was sixth with the 50 and the 55, 8.04, previous best 8.26. Fifth, 346, previous 48.39. Sorry, that was a lot of PRs. I messed some of them up. Congratulations to everyone that ran fast this time from Lacey. Coach Geiger is doing a great job. Keep bringing them. I probably won't mess them up next time. Can't guarantee it. Anyway, Dave, let's jump into this. We have another great show for you guys. We keep on getting fantastic guests, and this one is no exception. It hurts, I think, both me and Dave to say that this coach comes from easily the most legendary school in New Jersey, especially for distance running. Us being two public school guys, we've always were in competition with this school. It was always about beating this school. But, man, we got to give respect where respect is due. He is Coach Sean McCafferty. He is the Christian Brothers Academy head cross-country coach and assistant indoor and outdoor track coach. What's going on, Coach?
How are you guys? Good to be on.
Yeah.
Let me start with saying something. It's not a PR. It's a PB. So,
yeah.
Listen, that is huge because, my old high school coaches were all about PBs.
Same.
And then all of a sudden, this whole PR thing came about. I was always a PB guy, but you know what? We might have to actually change it because it's personal best, not personal record. I am not. That is a great call there.
I agree. All throughout high school, it was always PB. I heard PB, and then once I got to college at Marist, PR took over. So I don't know what that is, and that was in 07 that I got to college at Marist. So that was kind of the switch. I mean, people will probably argue it's semantics, tomato, but I like to agree with you. It's a personal best, not a personal record. But maybe we should champion that. Talking in Ovals will re-champion the personal best coming back into running. But Coach, again, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. You're obviously have a great school there, CBA. Again, you guys just won the short conference meet over in at the Bubble this past weekend, so congratulations on that. That's huge, but it's something to be expected, right? Is that where you guys come in with that mentality?
Yeah, on the cross country side, especially, we aim pretty high, and our local meets are important to us, but we're looking beyond that, looking to win meet champions, of course, NXR, and head out to nationals and be successful there. We try to continue that in the winter as best we can. Winter and spring are a little bit different because the way everything works. But yeah, I mean, we go to those meets and we talk about winning them, and that's why we're there. And the kids kind of not that we expect to win, but I think that's the bar they hold themselves to.
I love that. I love the fact that the expectation is there. I feel like, if you have the skill and you have the talent there, it's only fair to kind of hold them up to that level. But we'll jump in to more CBA coaching in a little bit.
All right.
I want to do exactly what you specifically said. Hey, I don't want to do too much of. We're going to talk a little bit about you, Coach. One thing we like to do with all of our guests, and something I think that we do uniquely, is we give you guys an opportunity to kind of jump down memory lane. So for you as a runner, when did you kind of sit there and run a race or do a run or something where you kind of felt like, man, kind of like this, I think I'm going to do this a lot?
Yeah, so I was kind of born into the running world. My grandfather was a 600-yard state champion in Massachusetts in 1921, I want to say. I think my dad, 1965, 600-yard state champion in Massachusetts. He ran at Villanova under Jumbo Elliott. Was part of an NCAA championship relay team for them. He is on the Penn Relays Wall of Fame now. So I started running, not training, but I ran a road race when I was, I think, 5. My dad actually put 6 down on the entry because he felt bad that he was running a 5-year-old. But I think I ran like a 5-mile race in like 36 minutes or something like that. So I always had the running bug. I played soccer, baseball, basketball. I did all those things. But I think I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to run. And then, 7th grade came around, and I remember my goals were, try to be top 10 in Ocean County in the county meet. And a lot of middle school areas aren't very serious about things, but I think Ocean County and a lot of it, I think, because Tom Rebold, you mentioned him last week, Dave.
Yes, absolutely.
He was very serious about his team that he coached at intermediate.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I think that kind of brought some excitement to it. They also used to have the middle school meet race the same day as the high school meet. Yes. So we'd go to Ocean County Park and race before the varsity guys race, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And I was able to win in 7th grade, and that's when I really got hooked into it. But I still played a basketball at my school as a 7th grader, and so I wasn't fully committed. My dad really tried to kind of let me figure things out. But then 8th grade, I ran very well, and that was it. So
yes, you did.
So
no, I mean,
go ahead.
Like I said, like my first year ever running was in 8th grade, and I thought I was super hot stuff. And then there was no reason why my school would have a dual meet against Central Regional, but my coach, as Sean said, Tom Rebold, he's like, hey, you know what? You and Jankowitz think that you guys are hot stuff. We're going to go there, and we're like, we're going to win easily. And, man, we got whooped. Sean ran. First of all, it was a crazy course. There was, we went into the woods. There was, railroad tracks and everything. It was nuts. And then, so, he just ran, and I was, at that point, I was like, all right, I have to keep working super hard to even try to compete against someone of this caliber. It was, you were just this person that was here, and I was here, and it was just awesome to just. And then we actually started training together on Saturdays and Sundays, running at Park, and what a great memory that whole time was.
It was, yeah. I had a good time. My injuries, freshman and sophomore year weren't fun, but after that, when I got healthy again, it was a lot of fun. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I know all about injuries too. I think all of us here have kind of had the injury bug hit us at some point. I think all runners do. And it's kind of that's the challenge, right? Especially if you're a distance runner and stuff. Like it's hard to get back on there. But it's funny. You mentioned a crazy course like that, Hyatt. Doesn't that you talking about that reminds me of the old Manchester course when they
That was
used
the
to
worst
go
course
through.
ever.
I used to love the old
Worst
Manchester
course ever.
I
Worst
loved
course
our old
ever.
course because it was the biggest advantage. No one could run on it except for us. It was great. But so overall, so that's when you had your spark, seventh grade. One the theme that I got here is, and I think it's kind of natural. Everyone's like, yeah, I got the spark when I won. It's like everyone's like, I won something and it was pretty cool.
What's funny is my first race in seventh grade, I lost to some kid from Southern. I couldn't even tell you who he is. And it angered me so much in a good way. I don't think I lost again until my first race freshman year. Yeah, I mean, I loved racing. I loved the nerves of it, the intensity of it. It's why I coach. I really, it makes me tick, and I like leading other people into that feeling.
So what are your favorite, if you have any few memories to go down from like your high school, any other part of your career, what are some of your favorite memories that you can kind of draw on that like maybe you haven't thought of in a few years and now you're sitting here thinking back on it? I was like, man, that was a good time.
It's a tough one. So I remember in seventh grade, we raced the Intermediate West Invite, which was a kind of the biggest. It was kind of a shore conference and a little bit beyond the shore conference. And I remember there was a kid from
the West Invitational.
Long Branch. What's that?
It was called the West Invitational.
Yeah. There was a kid from West Long Branch who was really good, and he took it out in. I mean, we were 225. I think at the 800 we were flying, and I thought I was going to lose to the kid. And after about 3/4 of a mile, he was gone, and I was able to win, and that was the first time I felt really challenged. Because before that, I was kind of seventh grader trying to figure things out, and that was the first time I was challenged, and I was able to respond to it. And then one of my happiest moments when I was in freshman year, the shore conference. I remember Tom Heath sat me down. I was at CBA at the time. And he told me, start out in 50th place. It's at Homedale Park. Start out in 50th place, move up. No CBA runner, freshman, had ever won a varsity letter. And I needed I needed a couple points. And the way we do it is the top 10. If you make it into the top 10, you get 5 points. Top 20 is 4 points and backwards. So I might have needed 1 or 2 points. So the goal was to finish top 40 or whatever. And at the mile mark, I was in 25th place. And I just remember Heath just freaking out on me. And I just kept moving up. And I think I finished 12th or 13th.
Wow.
And it was a really good race for me. And it was just that moment when I finished and Heath came over and he was like, yeah, sometimes I'm wrong. And he walked away.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was pretty
the sign of a great coach, though, so I want to ask you, so you're at CBA in high school, and then you have a phenomenal freshman year.
Right.
You get hurt, and then senior year you're back at Central. Right. What went into all of that? And you had a great senior year in XC too. Man, I think you're what, 6th in the MOC?
5th in the media champions.
Sorry.
And yeah. So I grew a lot. During freshman year. So right at the end of cross country, I ran in the non-public A. I guess back then it was a Pro QLA state meet. I ran very well. We were able to win, and I got hurt that day, I think, running around watching other races, because we used to stick around to get splits and things like that, and it was just not a good idea. I hurt my hip a little bit. It wasn't anything bad. Then I grew, and my shins were just really bad, and I couldn't run more than a few days without my shins really hurting. And it led to a lot of frustration, difficulties. I was traveling a lot to get to CBA, from Bayville, and the bus was I picked it up in Ocean Lanes and Brick, if you guys know where that is. It's right near Ocean County Park.
Yeah.
But it was at 6 a.m, and the bus would travel all through Point Pleasant. It was a lot, and I needed a change. I I'm not gonna lie, I considered going back after I got healthy and felt better, but anyway, I stayed at Central, and I was able to get healthy. I remember at one point, my dad is always a pretty quiet guy. He was always very positive, but every once in a while he would say something that just got to you. I think he deliberately did it. And I ran like a 450 mile or something in some dual meet as a sophomore at Central after I transferred back. And I remember finishing, I was excited. And he's like, you shouldn't be happy about that. You ran like 440 in 8th grade. And that moment kind of triggered me and got me rolling in the right direction again. And I worked really hard in between sophomore and junior year. And I was able to train healthy for the first time in a year. So that's kind of it. And then, fall of my junior year, I got better and better as the season went on. I think I started out at 17:20 at the short coaches and ran 16:40 by the end. Back when 16:40 was fast.
It's a whole different ball game now.
Yeah, no, I finished 15th in the meet of champions at 16:40, and like now, you wouldn't even
be in the JV A race or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be 15 seconds away from making CBA's top 7.
Yeah, but in your defense, though, there were still rocks on the course. Everything wasn't paved and perfectly groomed, and the shoes wearing. You guys were still wearing like waffle racers, and I'm kidding.
I think it's all coaching now. It's just so much better coaching now, and so much better understanding of everything. Yeah,
I used to run 6-minute pace all the time. So it's probably exhausted at all times.
Right. I remember you coming from with us at the Beach Yacht Club for summer practices. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we would just go like 6 minutes. Like every day was just an absolute race every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to hammer all the time. So, now like at my kids today, we did a double. We did, 3.5 miles in the morning and, 6 or 7 in the afternoon. And they're going 7:30, 7:45 pace, just getting easy miles. And I would never done something like that. And I think the training has changed so much. I think people are pointing to the shoes a lot. I think there's a lot more to it than that.
I also think too, it's coaches now, like we have a better understanding of like, you don't have to go balls out every single day. Like you need to have, like my coach was like, let's go. It was just had to be fast every day. And whether he said it or not, like that was our mentality. Like we had to just go hard every single day.
Yep.
And I think there is a lot to that because, Dave, our buddy, Chris Poss, he ran over me at Manchester. He went to UPenn and Cal, and they, he would say like, oh, we don't do any LSD. We don't do long slow distance. Like that's not something that is ingrained. Like they were very much when, the Garmin watches were starting to get big with the heart rate monitors. They were very much about keeping a certain heart rate, which means you're moving pretty quick. Like if you're running a long run and you're trying to get a certain heart rate, that can get pretty taxing. But, I think it's kind of where that philosophy of hammer a lot of times when it did work, it produced ridiculously good results, right? But it didn't work for everybody. And it kind of peaked and petered some kids out where they probably would have been better. Maybe, at times I feel like I was a little fortunate at Manchester where we were a little bit smaller. So we had to vary a lot of our training where there wasn't as much of that. So there was, it's a little bit of everything. And you guys are certainly right. There's a lot more coaching to individuals instead of just my philosophy, go do it type of deal. So going back in, so you had a good time. Did you go off and run in college, or was high school where you called it a day?
I did. I went to Princeton to run, and again, health issues. I had a issue right at the end of my senior year in spring called osteitis pubis or pubitis, and it never goes away. So you have to learn to manage it, and so it basically leads to tight and sore groin pain all the time when you're running and everything. So eventually I figured out what it was. I was able to train and I got back to things, but then I ended up having a heart issue that I had to get surgery for. So I never really got going in college, but I was one of those guys that went to practice every day. I helped time. I so I really was involved in that way. So, yeah.
So good transition there. So was that when did you decide that you wanted to become a coach? Because we had a bunch of variant. We had, Coach Rivera, Wilfredo Rivera was like, no, I never wanted to coach. And then they kind of got thrown in. When did you kind of decide? Was this something that as you were running in high school, you're like, I could see myself as a leader? Or was it in Princeton when you had to make that transition that you started to enjoy watching your teammates be successful and stuff like that?
I was 11 years old. I followed my dad around at meets. He was a track coach and a math teacher. I wanted to be a math teacher and a track coach.
Nice.
His dad was a legendary track coach, by the way.
He was very good. Yeah.
At Brick. I mean, he was.
Yeah, they were
fantastic.
good. And then it's funny. He came back when he retired. He became administrator around my freshman year of high school, and he came back and coached with Jack O'Leary, Mark's brother, at Donovan Catholic. And I think the first year they were there, they scored like 10 points in dual meets total. And 4 years later, they won non-public A in track, and they were just. And then they retired, and that was it. But
I mean, that's such a great duo because Jack O'Leary, mile coach's brother, he had the state record in the mile at Roosevelt Catholic in like 4:15 on a cinder track and a dirt. So you had two guys there who were just like, and they were getting paid absolutely dirt, but they just loved the sport and just wanted to just coach. And that was awesome to actually watch. I remember that time. It was phenomenal.
So I believe I was fortunate enough to be competing at that time because if I'm not mistaken, that's when he had George Johnson, Raymond Coles, the Bryce brothers were there. And I actually was pretty close with, Brian Bryce when I was there because we're rivals, Manchester and Donovan. But it's like at the same time, there's a lot of Manchester kids that end up in Donovan. So we were friendly. I was friendly with Ray Coles and George Johnson, even though they both started whooping my ass. They were both younger than me, but man, my injury started to pile up. It's not an excuse, but they just kind of one meet they ran by me and they never looked back. But they were good.
They were both great coaches.
Yeah.
So Sean, I want to ask you. So like you graduated from Princeton. You spent a little time at Rutgers.
Yes.
And then you go to Homedale and you're coaching with Bill Logren, who is a great coach. I remember racing against his team when I was in high school. So were you teaching at Homedale at that time? And then also,
yeah. So I teach Latin, so my math teacher coach thing didn't really work out all that well. But it's funny. I when I was at Princeton, I always joke. I went to a math info session the first week I was on campus, and no lie, there were 4 freshmen there. I was the only one above the age of 16. And I was like, all right.
It's Princeton. Yeah.
So I switched gears to
Doogie Howser there.
But anyway, so I was teaching Latin at Homedale. And I volunteered with Bill for a little bit. Learned a lot from Bill. He really it's a small school. Homedale is not, I think back then 700 kids. And so I always, you always say, whether you're at Toms River South, North, Southern, Jackson, whatever, the football team's the same size for the most part, give or take. Soccer team, basketball team, they're all the same.
Yeah.
So, when you're at Homedale and you're dealing with 400 boys, you're still losing 50 or 60 to the football team. You're losing 10 or 20 to basketball. So it was tough there, getting kids out. And Bill did a great job of, balancing, getting those kids out. And it was a very, very high level academic school. And, getting those kids out that were motivated to do well and succeed, it was tough to do, but he did a great job of doing that over the years and had a lot of success and he won 2 state titles while he was there and a bunch of sectional titles. So he did quite well. Yeah.
So when you're teaching and coaching at Homedale,
mm-hmm.
How far is Homedale Park from the actual school? Do you have easy access to go there and train there?
Yeah. So Homedale Park is 1.1 mile. The starting line is 1.1 miles away from the school entrance that we used.
Should be illegal.
Yeah. Well, listen, yes, absolute advantage, but also difficult at times because there's nowhere to run that doesn't have a hill on it.
Right.
So it was hard to find easy days. It was hard to find days where you got out and just cruised around. You couldn't find places like that. Also in the wintertime, when it snowed, it was really rough because Homedale Park never melts. Up by the mile mark is always snowy and icy. So we'd have to find roads to run on, and it's not safe around there. But yeah, I mean, the advantages of being able to run in Homedale Park, knowing now, or if I knew then what I know now, yeah, we would have run a lot faster.
So just a quick question. Was there kind of like tempering like your best runners from just wanting to go and practice the bull hard and consistent and practice that first hill and really get the advantage there? Was it kind of you as a coach like, slow down, guys, don't hurt yourselves? Or
no, not really. I used to run a very structured program where we would do a lot of loops. Consecutive loops. I do it from time to time now, not as much anymore, but and I tell them the pace they have to hit. This loop has to be 9 minutes, this one 8:45, whatever. So there wasn't a whole lot of that. I think that the biggest takeaway was getting kids excited to race because they were there every day.
Right.
And they went there for class trips, they went there for picnics with their family. It was tough getting them jacked up. Like you guys went there, you guys were pretty close, half hour, 45 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
And how often did you get there? Especially during the school year, summer, more.
I'd say that at South, we would get a bus and go there probably at least every Saturday,
Right.
like Coach O'Leary was good. Like he wanted us to always run hills because we were considered South Jersey, so like we felt that we had an advantage on the flat courses when we ran the actual hills. That
Right.
Going down there would actually be an advantage.
Course,
but I mean overall. So were you there when Craig Siegel?
No, I was not.
I didn't think so.
He was an 01 grad, I think. I didn't start there till 03 or 04, I think.
Yeah, he was with Eddie Bain, so I wasn't sure if if you were there. All right.
So they had
like
go ahead, Dave.
No, Alex.
So I was gonna say, they had some good runners at Homedale. You eventually leave there, go over to CBA. You go from one legendary coach in Coach Logren. Now you're with the coach of New Jersey. Like it's not even unfair to say. It takes over in 1970, retires in 2015. Coach Tom Heath is the premier coach from New Jersey in distance, and it's not even close. Yes. What was it like going over there? Now, obviously, he coached you. What was it like going back there and, now coaching underneath him and picking his brain? Like, how much did you develop with Coach Logren and Coach Heath being able to pick both their brains?
Yeah, so I think the one thing I learned from Logren, and it was something I think a lot of coaches in New Jersey miss, a lot of coaches everywhere kind of miss, is that Bill always strove to beat CBA, right? Never did. I never did when I was at Homedale. We finished second in the Meet of Champions, averaged 16:30 at Homedale. They were first with their 5 guys sitting out, So
yeah.
That was the craziest race ever. I'm like,
I got a funny story about that if we have time, but
we always have time. We always have time.
So. Yeah, I mean, Bill kind of looked to CBA and said, okay, what are they doing that works? And I think a lot of coaches look at us and are like, there's coaches at meets that don't say hi to me, that don't talk to me. I'm a nice person, so it's challenging sometimes to anyway. But Bill was always striving to be that, hey, we want to be the best public school in the short conference year in and year out. He was a lot. I was, I think, 5 out of the last 6 years that I coached there. That was important to us. We traveled to Bowdoin to go race CBA.
That's at my age up here, Bowdoin and Poughkeepsie, right by me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, and then going over to Tom, I knew Tom very well. I went to cross country camp with him every year. I brought my Homedale kids with him, so I knew him quite well. And I was one of the coaches that he had a relationship with in the Shores. So we talked often. We would have JV dual meets, freshman dual meets throughout the season together. So it was a pretty comfortable move over there. Obviously, I left a couple of very good athletes. I had Aaron Barlev, who had run, I think, 4:17 as a junior. Marin Warner, who had run 4:49 as a junior. I was leaving them. But Craig Siegel helped out the next year, and they ended up running pretty well beyond that. But, getting over to CBA, they were through a transition too. I wasn't, I took over for Chris Bennett, and he was kind of a short-term legend, but, he did a lot to, I think him and Heath
He is a
really
Twitter
well
legend now. A Twitter legend.
Yeah, I think him and Heath worked very well together. Heath is the numbers, everything matters. I'm going to get in your face, yell and scream at you. And Bennett was I'm going to lift you up and make running fun and exciting. And they, for a few years there, they just had this perfect mix of success. And so I was coming in right after that. And the year before I got there, they averaged 15:52 at Homedale. Like, I asked Heath about that. He's like, yeah, I didn't even think we could do that again. It was just, we hit it on the right day. So it was tough at first. I started August 1st. I think Heath was really diving into, trying to do things, and he didn't really, we didn't really deal with each other much right away. I mean, we were coaching together, but I don't think my advice was all that in his ear. I think as the year went on, he started to buy into a little bit more of what I wanted to do. And, but yeah, I learned so much from him. I couldn't even describe how it changed the way I coach. And not even the training. I've completely changed the training that I did 3 years ago. But how he coached and motivated, and sometimes it was scaring the crap out of the kids. Sometimes it was. I remember my first week, we were racing LaSalle. We were going to be number one in the country. LaSalle was going to be number two from Rhode Island. And he passed out photocopies of pictures of the LaSalle team August 5th for a race we were having September 26th. And it was like, get to know these guys.
Yeah.
He passes it out to the team, and it was like, holy crap. Like, and just learning to pregame and to kind of show the kids how to race and where to be in races is something that, like, I never thought to do at the level he does. And it was, life-changing for me in terms of how to race at Homedale, how to race at Manhattan, Van Cortlandt Park, of course. Little things like just everything blew my mind right away. So
Now, the one thing that I have noticed is that you don't have the same old awesome pink shirt that Coach Heath has. With two buttons undone, the collar like halfway popped.
You always knew where
That
Coach
guy
Heath
had
was.
the
You always knew.
coolest pink shirt of all time.
He loved that shirt. He would burn it.
I do have to ask you, because you mentioned how your training has changed just from a few years ago. A few years ago, we were all dealing with COVID-19. All coaches in the area were dealing with COVID-19. How did CBA handle COVID-19? Because obviously things can work different in a private and a parochial school than they can in the public sector. So how did you guys handle COVID-19 training-wise, school-wise, everything? How did that go over there at CBA?
Yeah, so our training changed, actually. We went to indoor nationals in 2019, I think. Mm-hmm. And so a year before the pandemic, and we ran, I think, 17:18 or 17:19 for 4 by mile.
Damn.
Real fast. We lost by 20 seconds.
Wow.
And Mike Mazzacaro, who was my assistant at the time, driving home, we were like, we got to change. Like, something is changing and kids are getting faster. We need to do something different. So we started to change things then. That spring we had, I think, our sixth kid ran 4:17 or 4:16 or something. So, we ranged from 4:10, and we were like, wow, something's working. And anyway, but the pandemic, so 2020 hit. The first 3 weeks, CBA wouldn't let us talk to the kids in terms of training. That was an NJSAA thing, and we kind of really try to follow the rules. So we weren't really allowed to do that. And then after 2 or 3 weeks, the NJSAA is like, oh, yeah, these kids are sad. You should talk to them. So
you would think, locking them up in a hole with no guidance. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got back into that. And believe it or not, we had one kid, Shaw Powell, ran a 9:08 all by himself. No rabbit, nothing. Wow. And then a week later, he ran a 3 flat 1200. I have a video of that I can share with you. Pretty wild, all by himself. So that would have been, he was going to run 4:05. I mean, he was ready to go. But
that's incredible.
And then during the next year, so fall of 2020, CBA was open, fully open, masks on and everything.
Wow.
They kept having to close for 2 weeks. And for the first, I'd say 6 or 7 months, we would close and not be allowed to practice. So we'd be closed for a week or 2 weeks. And so there was really no consistency. And we tried to keep kids in groups a lot, and it was hard to get kids to move up. We have a freshman, like sometimes he does a workout with the varsity, but then does an easy day with his other freshmen or whatever. And we just couldn't do things like that because they weren't letting us mix and match. Again, we were really trying to follow the policies and everything, but it hurt us quite a bit. That leadership, that brotherhood, we have the love for each other, the care for each other that I profess, that we talk about constantly. That the minute you walk onto CBA's campus as a student, you feel it. We didn't have that as much, and it took getting our butts kicked by Union Catholic to kind of start to rebuild that a little bit. So the pandemic was tough. I mean, with that said, it's high school cross country. It wasn't as tough on us as it was for other people, but I think we learned some good lessons, and it made us better in the long run. So.
Yeah. And it's kind of like to a T, like everyone kind of talks about like the challenges of like continuing to train and, keeping, your athletes training and then not overtraining because they're kind of going stir crazy and thing like that. So I definitely had a negative effect on everyone. And everyone took kind of a different approach in terms of schooling and how they opened it up. So I just want to talk about more challenges of coaching just in general out of parochial school, because it is a different animal than it is. You have the experience of coaching at public in Homedale and then over at the parochial at CBA. What are some of the separate challenges, advantages, anything that you can talk about in terms of coaching over there than over at a public?
The advantages. We're drawing kids from, not gonna lie, we're drawing kids from all over Monmouth, parts of Ocean, a little bit of Middlesex County. So we do get kids from all over. That helps, like right now we have 2 brothers, the Falkowskis. They're from Manasquan. It's funny. Neither of them broke 5 minutes before they came to us, but both were talented. Their dad was a good runner. So we do get kids from all over. That's a big advantage. If you're a good runner and you have the money to pay for the school, like it's almost a no-brainer to an extent, depending on what town you're from. We don't have football. We have rugby. We have rugby, which pulls 80 kids, so it's similar to football, but it doesn't take over the school like football does. So football, when I was at Homedale, no matter how good the team was, there were years where they were 0-10. There were 5 years where they were 0-10 every year. Every Friday or every Thursday, there was a team dinner. There was, the locker room. We couldn't use it because the cheerleaders were decorating it, Not having that gives more equality to, I think, all the sports. Like in the fall, soccer is a pretty big deal. Yeah. But
you guys have a good soccer program there too at CBA.
We do. But it's very different. Like for instance, we hosted the South Jersey non-public A soccer championship. It was Seton Hall, I think. Somehow they were in South Jersey, and the game started at 2:00. the principal led 600 students up to the field to watch the game.
Yeah.
You know, like stuff like that is cool. Like,
Right.
and it doesn't happen.
Do you find that the success of your cross country program kind of gets you guys a little more respect? Like the fact that, you know, that the success there is the reason why they don't allow rugby or soccer or these other fall programs to kind of step on your toes a little bit, even though they have success. Like, is that something that you think plays a role there?
I think the coaches at CBA are all very respectful of each other. I think the students are all very respectful of what other people choose to do. Mm-hmm. That's something that the leadership from day one has really pushed. You don't even have to really push it. It's just something that goes on. So nobody's stepping on anybody else's toes. You know, it's really there's a lot of brotherhood there that is it's different than other places.
Now, do you feel that not having a football program, obviously it helps you in cross country, but do you feel that might hurt you in track because like you don't have all those guys who might, you know, like be your sprinters or your jumpers that maybe a public school has?
Yes and no. I mean, in 2019, we were set to, 2020, we were set to have a team that had 280-foot discus throwers, 260-foot shot putters.
Wow.
A mile relay that run, they ran, I think, 320 indoors at the bubble or something like that. I mean, like, yes and no. One of the issues we have now is rugby is fall and spring.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a challenge, I think. And rugby's relatively new in the school. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of dealing with those challenges as they come. But yeah.
So one of the things, being a public guy, we know that, the parochials can recruit. Not all of them are as good at it, but for the most part, you guys can, can't you?
No,
you can't recruit. So it's always been a rumor that there could be recruiting.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
So
right?
To kind of explain where that rumor basically comes from, is it basically the interest comes to you? Are you guys allowed to talk to athletes that you see at public schools?
Not really. No. So we have an open house, 2 open houses actually in October. We set up a table like every other sport, activity, everything. And, kids come by, they talk to us about the program, but we're not allowed to call them. We're not allowed to email them. I get weird emails from people all the time looking to either transfer from high schools or coming from 8th grade. I literally quote the rule from the NJSA and I send them the email of our admissions officer and apologize. Like, hey, sorry, I can't really do that. My team this year, my top 7, and it's upsetting to me when people assume we recruit.
Of course.
Well, that's, I want to bring it up because I want to give you either a chance to kind of explain the rule or clear the air, because I think this will help, because I think public schools, we don't get that. When I was in high school, it was like those dickheads at CBA, they're so good because they recruit. Like that was kind of where we were in public school. And, and it's just like, I feel like this is good for a lot of people to hear that, no, it doesn't go on. The interest needs to be from the parents and the student side, not from the school side, which I think may help. A lot of things, because I think a lot of coaches don't know that either. I'm not going to lie. I think a lot of coaches assume you guys recruit as well.
They still assume, but my top 7 this year, 3 kids had broken 5 minutes before they showed up at CBI. 2 of them ran over 5:30. 3 of them actually ran over 5:30 before they came to us. Zach Schroba ran 5:20 as a freshman, ran 16:20 at Homedale Park.
Wow.
So yeah, we work hard. We do the right things. We create a program that is less about the individual and more about the team. And when kids can do that and kind of let go of their own goals and individuality, they actually perform better for themselves. And we really push that. Whoever's wearing the CBA on their jersey, your job is to follow the race plan and win the day. There's times when we run our JV team at the short coaches, for instance, and we don't expect to win, but hey, we want to finish 3rd. That's where we can be. And you guys are going to follow the plan to do that. So I think our improvement. I mean, my training I would give to anybody. I don't really care. I'll hand it over to you. It doesn't matter to me. It's more about how you implement it, how you get the kids to believe in what you're doing. And if they don't, they're never going to trust you. They're never going to trust the fitness. And if they also can't do it on their own, a lot of coaches, 6 days a week practice in the summer, all through July. And we practice 3 days a week, 4 days in August. But the idea is if these kids can't do it on their own on a Tuesday afternoon, how can I put them on a starting line of a big race and expect them to do anything? And, building that, giving them that onus and putting that good positive pressure on them right when they're young, putting a freshman in a dual meet where we have a streak of 391 wins in a row. Usually it's against a team that I know we're going to be fine against, but they don't know that. And I'll tell that freshman, like, we need you to win today. We need you to finish fifth. And it's what I call easy pressure. We had a kid in the 4x8 2 weeks ago at the state relays. He was very nervous. We let him off. Now, after him, I knew we had two kids that ran 420 and another kid who ran 156 as a sophomore. Like, I knew we were going to win. Put him in there, and he leads off, hands off in the lead, and we went big, and he was jacked, and it was like easy pressure. Like, I knew he was going to succeed, even if he ran 210. The other guys were going to pick it up and do it. So we constantly talk about picking each other up, helping each other grow, building upon each other. And I think that's the singular most important thing that's different about a lot of what we do. And we're very serious about it. We start freshman year. The first conversation we have with the freshmen is we want to be the best freshman team in the Northeast in the country. And we start small and work up from there. That's a big deal. It also helps, we have the freshman run at CBA where every freshman runs a race the second Friday of September. It's awesome. We often don't get as many kids right away from that, but a kid like Tim McInerney, who ran 410, 153 for us, 1601 at Homedale, he was a soccer player. He did very well in the freshman run, and then ran for us in the winter and spring, and then decided to do cross country after that. So I think he won like 8 state titles as a CBA athlete. So pretty good.
I wish, real quick, Dave. I just wish that we had video actually releasing here for the audio, because when I said, we know you can recruit, the face that coach gave me, and kind of the glare that came through was like, you too. But no, I'm happy you got to set the record straight there. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I was gonna say, so like, I mean, as a coach, in this regard, it's like you would think that coaching at CBA is a breeze, is an easy job, but I have the actual opposite mind frame. Like the amount of pressure that you have to feel has to be just insane. Like you are expected, like you just said, like you have a 391 straight dual meet record. Like, yeah. So what is it like, to like know that you have to, like, can't get worse than maybe, second or third in the MOC, or like you have to qualify for NXN. Like, what is it like to just have that pressure on you? And do you ever take time to just like reflect and just be like it just has to be just so hard to just have that pressure at all times?
So there's different levels to answer that. I think the administration at CBA, the teachers, the faculty, even the parents, their goals for me and my goals for myself is to produce a good young man. So when those kids graduate, they are positive contributors to the school community, their own community, their families, everything. That's my goal. I want happy, positive kids. I think the alumni would disagree, and it's about the winning, and that's fine. I do hear from time to time about from alumni, good and bad. But my ultimate goal, and I think every coach is, as a high school coach, your goal should be to produce good young people and send them off to college ready to go and ready to, whether they run or become engineers or classics majors, whatever it is, they're able to succeed and do well. And that's my number one goal. With that said, my first meet as a head coach at CBA was a dual meet against Colts Neck. They were 11th in the country. We were, I think, 3rd. And my wife will tell you I almost died that summer. It was September 13th, the day before my birthday. And it was a lot of stress. It was very, very stressful. And Colts Neck sent out a picture with 343 across their chest and striking a line through it, because the streak was at 343 at the time. And that was tough. It was very difficult, going to NXN or NXR every year, knowing, we've been there 11 years in a row to NXN. It is tough. It is a challenge, but I hold myself to that standard. And when you say, look back and reflect, like, we're talking about cross country 2025 and 2026, the minute the freshmen join the team. So there's never a moment where we're not thinking about that. Like, I had a funny little story. Like, I was at the New Jersey Catholic Track Conference meet the other day, and I had a junior run 9:48 for 3,200. It was his first time breaking 2 minutes. And I was excited. I was yelling across, great job, whatever. And a guy standing next to me says, oh, that's great, PB and everything, but he's never going to help you. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, he's not going to run in a state meet. Your guys are too good. And I said, that's cross country right there. And the coach kind of looked at me like, oh. I was like, it's January, but that's cross country, man. That's a guy that's going to help us big time.
Yeah.
So, and again, also, like, that's kind of what our goal is, to just constantly make these kids better. And I think a lot of people, like, how many kids score in a track meet? You get 6 places, right? On a CBA team, how many kids, if your seniors are running well, we got Nick Sullivan, the kid's ridiculous. How many kids are underclassmen are going to be able to score? So you have to make those kids feel relevant all the time.
Of course.
And, even the slowest kid on the team, he must feel relevant. If he's on your team and you choose to have him on your team, if you make cuts or whatever, that's up to each coach. They have to feel relevant constantly. Like, go lead the warm up. You're leading stretching today. You're the freshman. I don't care. You're doing this and this and this. I think that, again, that's where I feel that pressure. And we look at each day as a new day and a new moment for us to get better. And, we talk about the end result and talk about goals, but that's not what we do every day. Every day is, let's get a little bit better and let's improve ourselves as people. So that's kind of how I take the pressure off them and me. But it's also fun,
yeah.
Success is fun, right?
Yeah.
Winning is fun. Like, listen, winning is fun. I came from Manchester. We lost a lot in team sports, okay? Individuals, when we had the time to shine. We had some decent track teams, but individuals but it's like you guys winning as a team, and as that helps build that brotherhood and that camaraderie that you talk about. Like, and I think it makes some of the the fact that you guys can pick each other up like that and you do have all the success maybe helps at times when some individuals do have a down meet. But yes, the team did well, so pick yourself back up for the next one type of deal. So I have to ask, I really got to pick, because these are 2 topics that I think a lot of people would want to know. Number one, do you feel like it's a benefit that the runners that you have coming to you with the intent of running cross country, running track, and running fast, as opposed to some other schools where the kids are just going to try running? They're just going to try it out. And number 2, do you think there's a benefit that you're getting a bunch of boys, young men that are within puberty, but there's not the temptation at the school with ladies there?
I was going to ask that, yeah.
They still have their relationships outside. They do what they do, but, it's not there right away. They're not sitting there in school, possibly breaking up with their girlfriend in the middle of school before a big meet. Like, do you find that kind of helps keep them mentally healthy in terms of the sport? And, again, so the challenge is guys coming to you with the intent to be fast, no girls. Like, that is going to put it out there.
Well, I mean, in terms of guys coming to us to get fast, yeah, like, we get those guys. A kid like Joe Barrett, he was very good. in middle school, and he wanted to come to CBA to run fast. Nick Sullivan, even his freshman year, is the best freshman in New Jersey, best freshman in the Northeast, I believe, and probably top 10 in the country. I think he was still thinking about playing tennis. His parents own like a tennis center. So it's not always fully sold right away. Mike Mazzucaro, I think, tried out for basketball his freshman year, and he ended up running 15-19 at Homedale. So it's not always a done deal, but yeah, we get those kids. But again, I think what makes us, what has given us more success is like a guy like Zach Schroba, who, like I said, ran 5:20 as a freshman and kind of came out to try out running. We get guys that could cut from soccer that, hey, let me try this out, that end up being pretty good. Zach Schroba ran 16:20 at Homedale this year. Those are the guys that really make us tick, right? We're always going to have those good guys. You look around, Cherokee always has good individuals, Haddonfield and everything. It's the good teams are the ones that bring that other group along. And
your depth is always incredible. Just looking at your spread is always so tight. It's always ridiculous in the depth that you guys have. And, that's definitely a testament to you guys and what you guys do there.
Yeah. Now in terms of, and that's the thing, like you look around the state and the teams that have success are the teams that seem to be able to develop that secondary group of guys.
Yep.
Haddonfield, Cherokee, like I just mentioned, Westfield. Those are the teams that are consistently building. Brian Gould over at West Windsor North. They've had a tough time the last year or so because of during COVID they weren't even allowed to compete at all. So I think they lost a whole year. But he'll be back. He's a really good group of sophomores that are rolling. But I think that's something you see in those really good teams, like Baker down at Haddonfield. Like, he's just so good at developing those younger guys and building.
Even Southern too.
Yeah, Southern. I mean, and that's the thing down in Ocean County. Like, he has an uphill battle because it's a beach town. It feeds beach towns and things that. So there's all different
skateboarding.
Yeah, there's all different things. And listen, I'm from Ocean County. It's a different type of kid, depending on where you're from. You guys are all from, different levels of that. Like, I taught at Homedale, and those kids were the sons of engineers and doctors. And it was very different than Bayville, and
education was paramount.
Very
yes, exactly. Yeah. And in my house it was, but I think the majority, it wasn't necessarily always like that. So we all have different challenges that we deal with, and I think how you deal with them, and you have to ingrain yourself in that. Embracing CBA's culture is a really difficult thing to do, and kind of molding, like first period is the same as cross country practice. You're teaching them how to be good Catholic young men, and it's from 8:15 to 5:30 at night. So now go ahead.
What about the no girls aspect? Do you feel that helps or not?
So there are some kids that don't come to the school because there's no girls there. I think that's kind of sad. If that's the reason you're not coming, I mean, there can be a lot of reasons you don't come, but if that is, I hope that's not a serious reason. But we do lose some kids sometimes for that. But I do think it allows the school. I think race day distraction. If you coach a good team, I don't think that should matter.
Well, I think maybe just on like the day-to-day training aspect of,
my kids at home were focused on the day-to-day training, and they trained with girls, in groups with them and everything. So I think if you talk about it properly, it's fine. However, I think the camaraderie that forms, the brotherhood that forms, is a little different because there aren't girls there. The level of maturity is very different between girls and boys at the high school level. And I think sometimes there's a dichotomy there, and you don't really get that at CBA, which I think helps the mission of what we're trying to do, and builds that character in those kids. And listen, they're around girls all the time, and on weekends and things like that. So I don't think that's as big an issue as we make it out to be, other than
Right. As people on the outside who are always trying to nitpick, like, oh, CBA has this, or they don't have this, or they don't have that. It's like I remember, and I was that way when I was in high school. Like I remember finishing second place short conference like 3 years. I'm like, well, we are the best public school, but that is a loser mentality there. It's such a weird thing. Like you guys have just built this amazing program, and I feel like any public school who doesn't compete or feels like that they can't beat you, that is just a loser mentality from their whole standpoint.
Yeah, I hate to say that as a loser mentality, because I mean, what are you trying to do as a team and as a high school coach? Is it's be the best that we can be. And I know that sounds cheesy, but that's what I tried to do at Homedale. And like, I had freshman teams, we went after CBA and we tried to beat them. But the problem was, take CBA's freshman team, kick every other kid off. That's what I get at a school of 400 boys. It's just math is not there. So even Tom's River, like, you're looking at football, soccer, and South was a little bigger than Homedale, but not much bigger. But you're also looking at a bunch of kids that work and that have to work for the families and things like that. And, those are some things that you don't see as much.
That's a very good point. Like I feel like a lot of public schools, like youth kids who might not come from a place where their family has financial stability. So, some of those kids have to actually work. Whereas, you're at, like if you're at CBA, like, that your parents at,
to an extent, I mean, we do have financial aid and things like that, but I have a lot of kids that work because their parents want them to work, and I like that. It's teaching them that attitude and everything. But I remember in Bayville, like, kids literally had to leave school at 2:00 and go to their job to help pay for their house and things like that. And food. It was different, and those challenges, you can work around them to a certain extent, but it's just, that's another swath of kids that aren't doing sports.
Yeah.
And I think CBA, we have like 80% of the kids do sports. It's wild.
It's awesome. That's a great atmosphere.
Yeah, we had a morning run today, first morning run of the spring. Very excited for it, and the weight room was full. Like, I think the sailing team was lifting today. Like,
nice,
crazy, yeah. But I think that coaches and schools need to look at what they have in front of them, and you coach the team you get to a large extent. But I will tell you, walking around the halls of Toms River South, walking around the halls of Manchester, are teams that can win the Meet of Champions.
Oh, absolutely.
Without getting those kids out, getting those 1,000%. Kids the time that they need to train is the challenge. And sometimes it's just not something you can do. I remember at Homedale, there were a couple kids that were average soccer players that would have helped us big time. And you just can't get them out because they're on their club team. They're doing this.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do. So
soccer is a huge track sport.
I played football my senior year, so
soccer.
Listen, I'm a football player at heart. I played football. I played football my senior year, so I'm one of those. But coach is looking at me sideways. But so I do have to ask, because I know, when it comes to like short conference meets, when it comes to like state meets and things like that, it was always a thing. Like, the public kids got up, like anyone but CBA. Like, we got to beat the CBA kids type of deal. Do you guys kind of use that as fodder, knowing with your top kids, like, hey, target on your back. These guys are going to do everything they can to beat you. You have CBA on your chest. Go out and do it. Or is it more of just, what you're capable of, what your goal is, go accomplish your goal and not worry about all that other stuff?
So short conference this past fall.
Mm-hmm.
I sit them down on Monday and I give them a descending order list of what I think the race will be. I use these weird things called speed ratings. I use 2 mile times from the spring before. This I learned from Heath. And it's a pretty well thought out list of
Speed ratings are rather popular now. I see them pop up a good amount. People are doing them a lot lately.
They're big in New York, but I use it to create these lists of where we're going to finish. It's a little harder on the local level because not everybody is speed rated, but I can convert things, and I've been doing it quite a bit, for a long time. We've been driving many places, like on a Saturday evening, and my wife is in the side of the car, like reading speed rates. Why do I have to do this?
Because I have a record to hold. Damn it, in the dual meets. But
so that is that is one hell of a wife, though.
Yes.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
Your wife's amazing. Obviously, my wife is like, "Go do your podcast. Don't talk to me about track."
So anyway, so that's Monday.
Yep.
And I kind of just give it to them and say, "Here you go." If it's a little more, if it's a closer meet, I might get a little more in depth of what they need to do. That's the most we talk about anybody else. The rest of the week, we work out Tuesdays, usually Wednesdays, easy run, and Thursday. We'll give them the game plan. And I basically tell them where to be by place. And this year it was Nick Sullivan, Joe Barrett, take the lead and pace the race. And it was Jack Falkowski, you're going with them. Lucas Ward and Schroba and Schmidt, the rest of the guys were supposed to be in and around 10th place. And they were supposed to move up or hold their positions where they are. Ocean County Park's a weird place. We'd like to move up from the back, but Ocean County Park, you really can't do that.
It's so tight with all the turns and stuff and everything. You got to be in good position.
It's because it's flat. It's hard to make up room on big, because people are all running fast. But anyway, so we do that, and that's it. And I think we mentioned a Manalapan kid, Cavellos, who's a very good runner, and I told Nick and Barrett, like, hey, be careful, but I had a feeling we were going to score pretty low, and it was a good opportunity for them to take chances. Going into to NXR, I mean, even NXR, I had a feeling we were going to do pretty well. But we'll go in and say, like, hey, you need to be 50th place, and at the playgrounds, 1,000 meters in at a boat, and I will be there counting. You're good, you're bad, you're 50th, you're 40th, whatever.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, we try to do that as best we can. It's hard in some meets. Like Manhattan's really, really hard. It's almost impossible.
Yeah, it's almost impossible. There's like 3 spots where you actually can see them coming around by the field and things like that. And if you go up Suicide Hill, it's then tough. You got to meet everyone. There's not many great spots at Vanny to get a great vantage point for that.
So Sean, I want to talk about you and social media, and like people don't realize like that you are such a huge advocate for the sport itself. Like I remember when they were talking about, with their whole changes with the MOC, you were a huge proponent of like, this is nonsense, keep it how it is. So like, what do you feel that your role is with your website and giving advice and just like knowing that like you are kind of like, in a sense, the top dog coach in this state? Do you feel that you have any sort of responsibility to kind of be an advocate for the whole sport? Or do you feel like because like you kind of take on things that would not affect you in any way, but you just kind of want to do what's best for the whole sport in general?
Great follow on Twitter, by the way. Great follow on Twitter. Go follow Coach. Absolutely. Anyway, go ahead.
I think all of us have that job. I mean, when you put on a meet, when you do anything, the number one goal should not be what is this going to do for my kids? It should be what's this going to do for the sport. And I think I started my website. I started getting more into Twitter and things like that because I think a lot of people have a negative view of me and CBA, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make it less adversarial, I suppose. I understand where people are coming from to an extent, but I'm a high school cross country coach. So I think that presenting those things and getting that out there is important. And in terms of them changing the meet of champions, quite frankly, I don't really care to a large extent. But 2 years ago, they shortened our season. in 2 years, we're going to start practice August 25th or 26th. That's official practice allowed to start.
August 25th. That's ridiculous.
So they did that, and then they changed the media champions.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was they keep doing these things, and we don't say anything, and we don't push back. What's to stop them from keep changing things? And there were some people in our area that were kind of like, well, we don't want to push too many buttons and everything. And we like the way the media champion. And here's the thing, the media champions now, like, I'm okay with the changes. That's fine. It hurts smaller schools a little bit. Yeah. But when it comes down to it, I don't want them to make more changes without us.
Yeah.
The NJSA notoriously does not ask coaches, at least in the cross country side and track side. I can't really speak for other sports, but they don't ask us for our opinion. And sometimes they do, and they just don't listen to it, which is a shame, And, but I'm trying to get that out there so that like people see that there is more. And listen, if people take my advice and do things better and, or take my advice and say he's an idiot and do things better because I'm an idiot, that's fine. I don't really care, but it makes us all better. CBA, not for nothing, CBA's best teams came when the short conference was its best ever.
Yep.
And you had a couple kids from South that were good, Freehold Township kids that were good. It was a Kyle Kroon and those guys.
Really good.
My Homedale team was really, really good. Colts Neck had some guys.
Craig
so
Voorhees
Southern had some
when I was there. Yeah, Craig Voorhees, Zach teed off. They were really good when I was there.
Yeah, and that's when CBA was at its best. I'd love for everybody to be better. It'd be great. It makes us better. Iron sharpens iron. Is that the phrase they say?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the phrase.
I also love how, like you have your website and you're always posting like simple things, but like 6 ways to get your kids ready for a meet, or like just like simple basic things that like are such good reads, but they're such like simple, wonderful things that I feel like if you just took those things into account, like so many people take those simple things for granted, and I just love everything that you post. It's just perfect.
Well, it's also kind of a journal for me too. Details matter, when we finish our season, like, I don't know if it drives my assistant coach nuts, Connor Lunny, but like we're at NXN in the hotel, after I was just a chaperone there, though I was not a coach. But we're in the hotel room and we start talking about the conversation, how we're going to improve things. And we have dinner, a week later or lunch, and say like, okay, what are we going to change? What are we going to fix? What are we going to make better? Those conversations are important, and it's important to look in the mirror. When we lost to Union Catholic and we were getting our butts kicked last year, I got out coached. I can point to this transfer and this kid and that kid or whatever all I want, but we could have beaten them. I just didn't coach well, and I didn't prepare my kids properly. And that's the bottom line. And, I think more of us need to look in the mirror and have that self-talk and say like, okay, what did I do wrong? And having an assistant coach that sits with you and is willing to say, hey, I think this was too much or this was too little. And I think is important. And, whether you're doing that by yourself with somebody else is big. Even, my dad, I call him almost every day, tell him about workouts, tell him what we're doing. And he gives me advice on things, on how to deal with things. And, I think it's super important to look in the mirror and judge yourself. Not constantly, it could be a little unhealthy in a healthy way, of course, but that's part of the reason why I started that website as well, just to kind of, for myself, just to make sure I'm doing the right things for my kids and my team. So,
yeah, Coach, I hate to end this episode, but we're at that point where, we got to get it going, but I really, really appreciate you coming on. This was fantastic.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Dave, do you have anything before we jump out of here?
I just want to say to every other coach, like Sean is a nice guy.
I'm not nice all the time.
He's not a big old villain, like he's doing his thing, and just, I just appreciate that you put so much content out there to help everyone else. And I'm just grateful that you came on this small little podcast, and thank you. And I've known you for, I don't know, 35 years, in a one way or another. And you were a pain in the ass to race against. You were even more of a pain in the ass to coach against. But everything that you've done, I'm super proud of you. And I wish you nothing but continued success in everything that you do. And thank you.
And guys, I'm glad I came on here. I listened to quite a few of your podcasts. My first one was Baker down in Southern. He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I like what he's doing down there. I mean, what he did with Jackson Braddock is really cool. So hearing some of the other side of it was kind of fun. But I'm also close with Chris Tefelsky. It was good hearing that as well. I text with him constantly about coaching, and
he's a good dude.
He's a very good dude. Yeah, I was at Rutgers with him for that.
I know. I was there.
Yeah. So, but yeah, keep doing this stuff, guys. I think you mentioned the shoes and all this stuff at the beginning of the podcast. I think there's a lot of things that are helping kids run faster, and it's trickling up to the professionals. But these are things that Kenyans and Ethiopians have been doing for years. And now it's just starting to hit here, and it's really good to see. And like, how many high school kids broke 4 last year?
Listen, I got to say, I was in awe of this past weekend in track and field.
Awesome.
Unbelievable. I mean,
record after record, everything. It was incredible.
There was probably about 50 or 60 people who broke 4 minutes in a mile. Yeah. You had an American record in the 3K, which is faster than the American record outdoor, American record in the 5K. Like, every time I'm on Twitter, I see American record in the 600 women. Like,
and how many girls broke 4:35 this week? It was ridiculous indoor.
Hey, Alex Carlson from Rutgers University. Great job, Farrell. Great job, Jelly. Awesome guys.
Yeah. Hey, Raddick's running camp counselor too. So we got to know her over the summer. She's a really nice young lady.
431 is rolling, man.
Ridiculous.
So fast. It's
ridiculous.
So fast.
So good. So, I hope that, anyone listening right now, I hope we dispelled a lot of rumors and myths about CBA. And, I was educated too. I think Dave was educated too. You could take it with a grain of salt if you want. You could think, coach is full of it, whatever, but it's from his mouth. I'm rooting for CBA. I never thought I'd ever see that in my life, but I am rooting for CBA. One thing I've always appreciated about CBA is you guys were always a dominant school, but you never kind of rested and ran like a championship race. You guys always went after it. So I always appreciated that. As demoralizing as it was sometimes, you guys always ran after it. You always went to go and try and get a personal best and run really hard. And, I appreciate what you guys are doing there. And you know what? Don't worry about being so damn nice, coach. Just go kick everybody's ass. All right. Just go kick everybody's ass and do what you guys are doing there. You're building your legend. You're already one of the top coaches, if not the top coach in New Jersey right now. So keep doing it. We appreciate you coming on. Again, we will be back next week, everybody. Like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, spread this word of mouth. Everyone, so long.